Mr. Vice President, first of all, you're unique in that you obviously served a considerable amount of time in the Senate. You presided over the Senate. You were willing to go back to the Senate later on. And yet the Senate, I gather, has changed significantly during those 40 years or so. What was it like when you went there in the beginning, and what's your sense of how it's changed?
Well, I think it has changed, and I underline the word "think" because I know it's changed in my own mind, but others might disagree with it. I think when I came to the Senate, when Dole came to the Senate, I think '68, 4 years later, while it was partisan, we had our debates and all that stuff, there was a kind of an underlying sense of civility of, we're all members of this club, and we got to know each other, and we would crack jokes, and wherever we could, we'd try to find ways of doing things together. As Humphrey used to say, the only way a majority can get done what it needs to do is with the minority's help. And we sort of went at it that way. And I think now, although I hope it's changing, I think now the kind of the belligerence, the partisanship, the idea that it's don't just defeat the person in an argument, defeat the person. It's a different mood. And I hope I'm wrong on that, but some of it looks meaner than I remember as being the case.
And sometimes not only defeat the person, but destroy the person.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like vengeance or something. And it shouldn't be that way. It doesn't help anybody. The public doesn't like it. And I often wonder why it continues.
Do you think one factor could be that when you, and for that matter Bob Dole, first arrived in the Senate, you had, first of all, a significant number of Southern conservative Democrats in your party, and there were a significant number of moderate to liberal Eastern and Midwestern Republicans in their party, that each party was much more diverse, and that they had to find some kind of consensus internally before they could operate externally.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. For the sort of moderate Republicans and the moderate Democrats almost had to work together because the Southerners in those days, although they were Democrats, many of them came out of that old Southern tradition. Back in those days, we'd yet to pass the civil rights legislation. The party rules had not changed to prohibit segregated delegations. And so at least on the great civil rights issues and a lot of other issues, you couldn't make any headway down there. So you had to cut across party lines. And of course, at that point, the Republican Party still had the Lincoln tradition of being solid on civil rights. Some of that I think has diminished, but at that time, it was fairly easy to put together coalitions, enthusiastic coalitions, not just paste jobs, on the Civil Rights Act.